From the Garden to the City by Dyer is composed of various stories regarding technology, experiences, and observations. But most importantly, it fits technology into the biblical story of redemption and examines it through Scripture. What I will be doing is picking numerous quotes that I found imminent to each major section of the book and reflect on each or on the whole section itself. The first section is the reflection, which begins on page 43. This is also translated to be the creation when referring to the story of redemption. God designed the garden in such a way that it needed to be worked on. God wanted Adam to cultivate or till or work what he found in the garden and make something out of it. God created the garden not as an endpoint but as a starting place. On page 46. There was nothing wrong with this garden that God designed, but he wished that it would change as a result of work put in by Adam. Adam was to cultivate the garden by taking materials from the earth and creating new things. These new things that he would create would be known as a type of technology. This technology would not be something natural, but it would be approved by God, for he did not want Adam to be content in this garden as it was. This garden was a starting point. Two quotes from this book that are closely related are, "When we cultivate the garden, that is, when we make things from what God has made, we are reflecting the image of God," found on page 47. There in the garden, as he created words and names that didn't exist before, Adam started reflecting the image of God, page 51. When we are cultivating the garden, we are using our utmost abilities to do this. The image of God means we, as humans, occupy a higher place in the created order because we are imprinted with godlike characteristics. Our godlikeness is the path to our greatest fulfillment. We will feel the greatest pleasure and wholeness when who God made us to be is fully developed and expressed. When we are reflecting the image of God, we are exercising these characteristics of godlikeness, and we can do just that by investing in technology. This is not to the point where we are distracted or forgetful of God, but so we can use the abilities that he blessed us with for the betterment of the world. In summary, we found that our ability to make technology is a reflection of our Creator. As we all know, after creation comes the fall, which in this book known as the rebellion, every technology has the potential to be used for sin and rebellion. They were trying to invent a means by which they could live without God and were therefore acting in rebellion against him. Page 71. One danger seen with technology is that we are withdrawing our faith from God and investing it into technology. It is seen that this world of technology can draw us in too deep and cause us to leave the world where a loving and open relationship with God is kept. Instead, that relationship is taken over by a world whose outcome is taking us away from God. Technology is something that can be used in order to not cause us to rely on him anymore. This is exactly what happened to Adam and Eve. When they became aware of their nakedness, they felt the need to cover themselves. What did they turn to? Technology, because they made clothes out of leaves, something that was not used before for this purpose, yet still worked to their benefit. This was their attempt to hide their sinfulness from God, which in turn separated them more from him. In some sense, all of our technology can be understood as an attempt to overcome the effects of the fall. Each of these inventions brings us incredible benefits, and collectively they work to reduce the suffering that we experience from the curses of the fall. Finally, God was saying that while technology can temporarily ease some of our pain, we must not be so foolish as to make it our ultimate source of hope. Page 73. Some of the examples being referred to are shovels and farming tools that help us work the unruly land, epidurals to help ease the pain of childbearing. Also, air conditioners and heating systems to overcome the weather, light bulbs to envelope the darkness surrounding us, search engines to overcome our lack of wisdom. Each of these things benefits us, yet they never truly solve the deeper problem of sin that came with the fall. Just as pain is temporary, so is technology. We must not be foolish to overuse it and in turn allow it to use us, because when we do such a thing, we lose sight of which we truly should hold our faith with, God. Not only can these tools be used for rebellion, they can also be used for redemptive purposes, serving the embodied life of Christ in the believer and temporarily overcoming the effects of the fall. Sometimes God uses the tendencies and value systems inherent in technology to move along his redemptive purposes. Page 100. An example that was used in this section was a beeper. The church's pastor, Pastor Andy, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Every member of the church was instructed to call in every time they petitioned God on Andy's behalf. Andy's beeper would go off throughout the day and into the night. Yes, Andy's beeper distracted him from the idea that there was no hope for him and that God wasn't there with him. But when someone applied this tool in a different way, it was transformed into a higher set of values. This device that usually pulls one away from interacting face to face with one another did just that. But because it alerted him that people were thinking and praying for him, it allowed him to have a new sense of hope, which was brought on by those people. No face to face could have brought the members closer with Pastor Andy because this device showed him how often he was on people's minds. Not all technological advances are harmful to us. It simply depends on if these tools are abused or if they are used correctly and fills out the purpose they were created to do. Of course, the tools themselves are powerless to save us. They are not magical and they have no command over sin and death. Yet God has seen fit to use them to bring about his redemptive purposes, found on page 103. Though God presents these tools to us, we still need to remember that the tool is not where the faith needs to lie, because the faith needs to remain in God. The redemptive capacity of technology is limited and temporary. They may only give us the illusion that they are the solution to the problem, but they are not. Medicine is technology. Yes, it is good, often saving lives, but it can only fend off death for that individual for so long, because eventually it will happen. We should see these as temporary means of keeping humanity going while God does his work. At the end of the Bible, God's plans include restoration. In Genesis 4, it is said that Cain built the first city in his attempt to establish an anti-garden, a place where he could distract himself from his fallenness and live apart from God. And live apart from God. Page 136. God made a promise to the people of Jerusalem to restore their city, not because it was a good or worthy city, but as a symbol of God's redemptive work in which he transforms unworthy things into holy things. On page 137. Because of Cain's initial reason for creating a city, it was seen as an attempt to make the opposite of the garden, a place where there were distractions to the point of distracting one from God. God can transform unworthy things into holy things. As the quotes say, and choose to do this for the people of Jerusalem. Even though they might not have directly built a city for the same reasons Cain did, but it still had the same effect. His plan is to restore human creations so that they too will be untainted by sin.